All right, we are back with more NFL coverage, and in this one, I'll be getting into the Week 9 recaps. So, to get straight into it, we have the Ravens versus the Dolphins on Thursday Night Football to start out with. Things got a little weird initially. Like, one of the first plays the Dolphins called literally had all of Tua Tagovailoa, Ollie Gordon II, Dave on Achane, and a lineman in like a quad formation in the backfield. Yet somehow that still managed to fool the Ravens defense just enough for them to drive down the field anyways. But I talked in the college football video, the recap there, about how Tennessee constantly got themselves in situations where they were driving down the field, putting together some strong play calls, and yet not converting their drives. They wouldn't even be the first team to do that. Because the Dolphins, especially when you look at this first half, it's like, what the hell is this? I mean, they managed to get a field goal here, and it's like, okay, first drive, field goal, fine, whatever. They actually do pretty good work against the Ravens in Lamar Jackson's first drive back, forcing Bateman to drop a pass, and eventually getting themselves the ball on a 3-and-out. You'd think that next drive, you'd be able to have them set the tone and put something together. Yet before you even get deep enough into that drive, Taj Washington gets the great amount of leverage on the outside on this route for one of the first catches and one of the first reps he's gotten all season long. Yet the man got punked by Alohi Gilman, gets the ball ripped out of his hands, and the Ravens give themselves an easy field to work with. I don't know why this took them all 4 plays, but it didn't matter. Nonetheless, Lamar Jackson, even if, he had a little bit of rust coming out, it took you very little time to realize that he was back. They would get themselves a touchdown here with Mark Andrews getting a solid catch in the end zone and giving themselves a 7-3 lead. But again, the shit just did not stop from there when you're the Dolphins here. It's like they had some solid reads the whole night. You had Achane consistently carving up the Ravens defense, both out of the backfield and running through the line, which honestly, credit to the Dolphins, for as much shit as they've been getting about their run blocking, they did an excellent job in the first half. More often than not, they allowed Dave on Achane to get the space he needed, and he made them pay time and time again. And it worked to their benefit. They were able, once again, to get down the field, yet still came up short and didn't even get anything because of missing a damn field goal. And it just got worse from there, but not before their defense, because they can't guard a lick. So having Likely get open on the back end against one of the safeties for their team, that wasn't too hard to see. Literally just sneaks right outside on this wheel route towards the right side of the field. There isn't anybody within 10 yards of him. And he just scampers down the boundary for a 35-yard game to end off the first quarter before Mark Andrews essentially carves up that defense for a 20-yard touchdown catch of his own to give it a 14-3 advantage now. And I don't know, every time they were making progress, they just continued to shoot themselves in the foot. Like, I kid you not. Now, this one was a little wild. I mean, this one didn't really look as though it was that egregious. They got Ollie Gordon II on a tripping penalty, but to be honest with you, it was more accidental. Like, he was stumbling the whole damn time. He wasn't really trying to hinder the movement at all. I don't really get that one. But they took him out of the game right after, and he let The coaches on the sideline hear that shit. He wasn't having it, man. Oh my goodness. But nevertheless, the Ravens, following that, would manage to get the stop, and they themselves for the rest of the half would go 3 and out on their next 3 drives. The Dolphins defense, even with them not being able to cover that much, it didn't really matter, because when it came to them running the football, they did clog up those lanes when they needed to. Or at least they put the Ravens behind schedule more often than not, forcing them to be aggressive on later downs, and the wide receivers just could not come through on those occasions. It also didn't help that, again, ref ball just wanted to continue to be implemented here. Like, they literally got that man Rashad Bateman penalized just for talking shit. I don't know. Like, you can't take that. I don't get it. Nevertheless, the Dolphins would be able to make a few strides here and there, but it was still just underwhelming, to say the least. They definitely had a chance to make this game way closer than it was. The fact that they were down by 8 points was a miracle in and of itself, but they were in this position. And so any amount of competence could allow them to make this, again, a tied ball game. They might have even had the lead in this situation. Instead, their next scoring drive would literally see them move just 4 yards, despite having advantage, a very great advantage in Ravens territory, with Malik Washington getting a great punt return and then having a penalty tacked onto to that. And little did we know those 6 points would be the very final ones they would score. Their management surrounding the end of this half was just horrible. Straight up. I mean, again, they did all the right things. They had the creative posts and slant routes getting over to Jalen Waddle for substantial yardage. The Ravens could not guard that for a little while. And Davon Achane, again, continuing to tote that rock. But the Ravens, at that point, once they got inside the red zone, they held Davon Achane to no gain. Cool. And I'm thinking, and the Dolphins had a decision to make at that point as well with the ensuing 4th down. Do you go and settle for a field goal at this point, keeping the same theme in mind, or do you try to get aggressive, try to ensure that you have the last possession in this half, and try to go out and even this game up, or at least slow down all Ravens' momentum here? And so they would go for it. No problem with the decision. But the play call and its subsequent execution essentially made it worthless. Because if you were going to have a situation where I saw this man, Tua Tagovailoa, try to target a fucking wheel route to Davon Achane out of the backfield, where he'd have to high point it over Kyle Hamilton, who's already consistently proven he's one of the most versatile, if not the most versatile safety in the NFL, and already has a size advantage over him. That's the matchup you're trusting to attack in that situation. And he missed it anyways. He overthrew it. If that's what you were settling for, you were better off just kicking the field goal. You truly were. Like, there was no point anymore. I'm not gonna lie. And yeah, that stuff would end the half. The rest of the game was relatively quiet. It was all Ravens, but they didn't even feel like they had to do all that much. They truly didn't. I don't know. Like, their opening drive, again, a bit more strategic. They had complete control at that point. And once they continued to establish that, it was just, there was no chance for the Dolphins to really do much of anything. It would actually be Charlie Kolar who would finish off this first drive by getting in the end zone for a touchdown score here. And then you'd have Keaton Mitchell get some action here, taking the burden off of Derrick Henry, before Zay Flowers himself nearly took a pass all the way home for a touchdown. It's just that he could not manage to stay on his feet. It's like, damn. You know what I'm saying? That is just honestly some of the toughest shit right there. And they just continued, Ravens receivers, to work the living shit out of that Dolphins defense. Which, again, is no surprise. I mean, prior to this, you're getting reports about all these different cornerbacks going down and out for the season. And it's just Russell Douglas. I swear to you, it is just Russell Douglas in that cornerback room. Who else is going to be able to keep up with these guys on a week-to-week basis? You're not going to be able to figure that out. It's hard for me to sit there and lie and say that, hey, they got it. No, they don't. They don't. And there would not really be much more offense to speak of, despite the Dolphins' best efforts at that point. But again, we're getting down the field, we're driving, and we're not finishing. This would literally be the second time a player with the last name in Washington in this game fumbled. But I ain't gonna lie to you, it was a damn great punch out from Marlon Humphrey. And he got his own turnover back as well to once again keep the Dolphins out of the end zone. Then this one was just desperation. But hey, Malachi Starks ends up with this, working it perfectly and getting himself his first interception in the league. In what was not a shocker to me whatsoever, the Ravens beat the living shit out of the Dolphins 28-6. Like, yeah, the Dolphins might have gotten a pretty good win last week, but again, you just can't, you literally can't make the shit up. You can't. Even with them being at home in this game, mind you. It's still hot in Florida, but when you're near November, when you get into December, those colder months, they still have proven, yet again, that they just, it's something every time. And I'll get to their side in a second, but as for Lamar Jackson, bro, he just continues to torch Miami throughout his entire career. They mentioned that his quarterback rating against the Dolphins is the highest he's had in a career against any team that he's faced off against. And with him getting 4 touchdowns, 204 yards on 78.3% completion in this game, he also got himself the second most touchdown passes in the first 5 games versus a single team in NFL history for any quarterback against any team. Dominance. Just, there's no other way to discuss that. He's got their number every single time he faces off against them. And no matter what iteration of the defense they've had out there, there's not a damn thing they can do to stop it. Derrick Henry in this game had 19 rushes for 119 yards. And Zay Flowers had 5 receptions for 64 yards, while Isaiah Likely had 3 receptions for 60 yards. Kolar had the touchdown and 23 yards on 2 catches, and Mark Andrews had 2 touchdowns on 2 catches. Doesn't get much more efficient than that for 22 yards. Rashad Bateman also had 2 receptions for 13 yards and the touchdown as well. As for the Dolphins, Tua Tagovailoa, just another, high volume and very little to show for it. 40 passing attempts is going to normally yield you at least a few touchdown drives. Probably should in theory, yet you end with just an interception in this game on 62.5% completion. And as for the rushing attack as well, yes, Tagovailoa definitely should shoulder some responsibility for how this game ended up going. Can anyone explain to me why the Dolphins, after having that tremendous first half on the ground and holding their own against a Ravens team that consistently likes to dominate the ground game, they had just a single yard rushing in the second half? a single measly yard. What are you supposed to do with that? What made you think you were going to last in this game? If that's the kind of stuff you're going and doing as a team. This shit is just awful. It's bad. Not even getting into the receiving numbers. I guess at that point, it's worth mentioning that after this, a lot of noise surrounding their coaching brass would definitely ramp up. But per a report from Adam Schefter earlier in the week, or well, at that time last week, I should say, they would fire general manager Chris Greer, and they are keeping Mike McDaniel, or holding on to him, at least per the report. It stated essentially at least until the end of the season. And from there, maybe they might reconsider. And honestly, with the stuff that I've heard, with this on-field product that we've seen, it makes sense. Boy. But it feels like there's a lot more that could happen there. So I guess we will see. Alright, moving on to the Sunday night action, and just to go over that. The Seahawks walked into D.C. and walked out with a massive win. Need I say more than that? Need I say more than that? I mean, damn. Like, as much as I could sit here and roll through everything that happened, I have legitimately no complaints whatsoever. None. None for the Seahawks. None. You know what the defense was going to do. And they honestly made life a living hell for that entire Commanders offense. I mean, up until they gave up this long touchdown drive at essentially tail end of the second quarter here, they could barely move the football past midfield, the Commanders. And even when they did, they were met with trouble. Like, it was just not pretty. Anytime you get a sequence starting off in a game where, again, opening drive, fun. If you go on a punt on the opening drive to start off a game, okay. We really start having problems when you throw an interception. And again, with the way that you had all these guys playing out there, Amon Worry getting in there later in the game, for example, bowling through blocks and tackling people with a single hand. You have the defensive line continuing to get after it. And then you have Takata on this specific play in question here, managing to haul in his first career interception with an impressive toe tap on the sideline. On another rushed Jayden Daniels throw via the blitz. That's a big problem. And then you get the Seahawks getting in the end zone with Torrey Horton, bro. The fact that Torrey Horton started out this game with back-to-back touchdowns on back-to-back scoring drives is fucking crazy. And it shows you just how good he's been playing. Like, he's not necessarily getting a ton of reps out there on a game-to-game basis, but the man has been making the most out of those shits consistently. And you have to give massive credit to that. You're down in a hole already. And you have Jalen Lane, who still is a pretty electric return man. You have a defensive lineman playing special teams and forcing the fumble. And you have the Seahawks getting the ball back. And then you have Sam Darnold continuing to be as accurate as possible, because he still did not throw an incomplete pass in this game to this point. But fires in a fucking rocket right around this Owens guy in the seam. And Arroyo gets it for his first NFL touchdown. And that extends the lead 21-0. That sequence right there, even with the Seahawks having control for majority of this one, that right there zapped all the air, all the life out of the Commanders team at that point. Because coming into this game, the goal would be to prevent any short drives at all. The Seahawks offense, even with this going on, is still conservative by nature. You cannot give their defense layups and allow them to be as opportunistic as possible to shorten the field and make things even easier for them, especially with the fact that they were in a rhythm at this point. And they allowed the worst to happen. It didn't get any better once they went 3-0. Like, it was just overall, Commanders offense. Like, yes, the Seahawks defense, again, they played them tremendously well in this game. We can't discount that the Commanders did come in this absolutely depleted. And as a result, with that limited talent, I don't know what it was. Maybe there was a lack of overall trust in, I guess, outside of Deebo Samuel Sr. and maybe Ja'Cory Krosky Meredith Toms. Jayden Daniels would try to make the most out of his scrambling ability. And, I mean, that did end up happening on that touchdown drive. That did end up happening on a few first downs that they would pick up over the course of the first half. But it's like he constantly felt like he had to be the guy making the play. And so the Seahawks were keyed in on pretty much everything else to force that as well. Like, I think the earliest drive put it into perspective. They tried to warm Jayden Daniels up with a couple curl routes underneath, and you have multiple linebackers covering them both, leaving Jayden Daniels no choice but to bail out. Or otherwise, the pressure is going to collapse as he's in the pocket. It was just truly dominant. And they just continued to keep it rolling. Eventually, this game got as bad as 38-7. But the Commanders would still keep their guys in, all their starters, or at least starting caliber players that they could keep in. Because over this time, too, as well, they had already gotten closer to losing Marshon Lattimore at this point, and he would eventually enter the game, or exit the game rather, with an injury. He would then be ruled, per Adam Schefter, out for the season with an ACL injury. They would also rule Luke McCaffrey out for the season with a broken collarbone suffered in the game at some point. I don't know if I saw that necessarily, but it just got worse and worse for the Commanders. So with all that in mind, again, one could question why those guys were still in the game at this point. And maybe it's for, playing for pride, sure. But again, when you have unfortunate injuries like that, it really just makes it that much clearer as to why you don't keep your starters in. And it did not, it reached just an all-time low. Now, the Commanders, to their credit again, they were trying to fight down there. They actually got Traylon Burks in on this drive, too, and he had a pretty good toe tap on the sideline. That would be the only catch that he had in this game. But they were making some progress. And honestly, the initial run that Jayden Daniels had get down into go-to-go territory was a little strange, because it's like, why you're leaving him susceptible to get banged up like that in that spot, knowing the game is already out of reach. There's no need to risk that at all. No one could have prepared them for what would have happened on 2nd and goal, though. Now, Drake Thomas is back in the backfield, I should say, trying to make a good play and stuff Jayden Daniels for a negative play, okay? And as he's getting tackled, don't look up the play either, because I saw that shit in real time. As this man's Jayden Daniels' elbow, as the tackle is being made, unintentionally as well, I might add. Like, I would hope that nothing has come either way, right? But his arm, Jayden Daniels' arm, literally gets caught under him and kind of fucking twists. And at that point, they go to TV timeout. He gets carted off the field. They put a fucking cast around his arm. And it's later mentioned by Adam Schefter that he had an elbow injury in the fucking game. It was awful to see that shit happen. It was. And again, seeing that go down in real time, of course, people are initially going to wonder, why the hell was he in the game in the first place? They were trying to soldier through it, but again, Jayden Daniels at that point is legitimately your franchise man. You know what he did for you last season. You know how much hope he gave your team. At that point, you just have to live to see another week. The Seahawks had already pummeled you into submission. Even if you wanted to play for pride, you have to protect your assets. And they just completely mismanaged that here. They did. A number of people have been calling them out for it. And a number of people have also made correlations. Obviously, the look is going to be to kind of think about RG3 in this situation. And to that point, it does make sense. Because if you remember, he actually re-aggravated one of his debilitating knee injuries in the wild card game in his rookie season that he played in against the Seahawks. Very coincidentally, I should add. And again, in both of those situations, you could argue that these things were preventable. If you knew that RG3 was still very much banged up at this point. Well, even if it is a playoff game, you could do a number of different things that could have prevented that incident. And for Jayden Daniels, again, this is a man who had already been injured and had missed substantial time this season. The team as a whole has been injury-ridden all season long. What makes you think it would be wise to keep that kind of trend going? And now it's your quarterback out for a potentially even longer period of time, with you already being in a hole and with you having a schedule that is somewhat okay, but you have little margin for error, knowing that your best shot is to have Jayden Daniels out there, and now you don't, because you wanted so badly to get just one more in this one, and it was not worth it. You truly have to sit there and ponder whether or not that was the case. It simply wasn't. So hopefully, again, you get Jayden Daniels to recover from this, and as well as McCaffrey and Lattimore. It sucks that you have that many people going down in one fell swoop. So you can't lose sight of that in this game. But in terms of the on-field product, the Seahawks put that belt to that ass. They did. And for them being a run-centric offense, for them being a conservative offense by nature, they blitzed the fuck out of this team. From the opening tip, they blitzed the absolute fuck out of them. Like the first drive, again, for them and others to follow as the first half went on, just showcased how creative they were getting in terms of utilizing Jackson Smith and Jigba. I mean, a couple of different plays. They had the man lining up in the backfield. And I couldn't help myself to say on both of those occasions, that's what Debo was doing in San Francisco. That's how they were utilizing him. That's his move. And surely enough, on both of those plays, for whatever reason, they didn't decide to guard him up out of the backfield. And it promptly left him open to gash them underneath. But he was constantly working just all over the field. Like, the man is legitimately an all-around weapon. If you want him to take off the top of the defense, he can. And he did on a couple plays there, getting a nice catch over the shoulder. You want him to work underneath routes, he's definitely proven that he can find a way to get open there. And he constantly was getting looked at in the intermediate frame as well. Just all over the place. And that consistent attention that Jackson Smith and Jigba would get did open up lanes for so many other people. It was not just him. He didn't even get a touchdown in this game. I already mentioned Torrey Horton, but you also had Elijah Arroyo get it, and then also Cody White. Man, they called off a practice squad because you had other wide receivers hurt, and I'll get to that in a little bit. He managed to get a 60-yard receiving touchdown with a tremendous amount of yards after contact. It was just that kind of night. Like, you have to love that. The rushing again, 88 yards in the night. They didn't even need to go that crazy. Because Sam Darnold, boy, oh boy. That man was truly on a fucking heater. Like, this man was out here just carving up. He was getting right in the pocket. I saw that man on this throw to A.J. Barner, and they replayed it as well. Credit to them. Bro, that man took the 3-step drop, and he was shifting around that pocket so fucking well. Because his initial reads, were taken away. He finds eventually as he just consistently moves his feet left to right. Constantly staying ready for the pressure. Hangs in there and delivers the throw to A.J. Barner. Usually you would see Sam Darnold crumble under the pressure in those situations. This year has definitely seen him make strides in that. And if that can be maintained in the biggest moments of the season, bruh, that's a scary sight. I'll tell you, man. They've also, again, done a great job of protecting him overall. Like, I think, I was looking at a few numbers. I think he's only been sacked, 9 times this season. And it's like, compared to some of the blocking the Seahawks unit has had in years past, that is a very stark improvement, to say the least. So it helps when you can trust that your offensive line is going to give you time to make a throw. Even still, when you look at it, this man opened up the game, completing his first 17 passes. And again, all these throws weren't just simple checkdowns. He was legitimately making tough reads, getting throws down the field, getting throws in tight windows under duress, with time, with improvisation. Any way you can think of, the man was getting the job done. The one interception definitely sucked and definitely hindered his chances of getting a perfect quarterback rating. But it still doesn't take away from the fact that he might have honestly put together his best performance as an NFL quarterback in this game, arguably. And it made history for the Seahawks franchise, as his 87.5% completion would be the second highest percentage in a game for any Seahawks quarterback in history. He also had 330 yards and 4 touchdowns in this game, with a scorching 13.8 yards per pass attempt. So again, I know that, again, people may want to have their questions surrounding him still, and that, to their credit, it does make sense. I get it. But you can't tell me that the man is doing all this stuff this season, and especially with a game like this, you can't look at that and say that this man is not getting himself in MVP conversations. I thought he was already a top 10 MVP candidate. So imagine what a game like this would do for his odds there. And Jackson Smith-Njigba, again, even with other guys stepping up, the man is still just getting his. 8 receptions for 129 yards. Just a consistent threat that Daron Payne is certainly going to know of. Now, he has also set multiple milestones. He is the first receiver in Seahawks history, or rather, has the longest streak of consecutive 100-yard games in Seahawks history with 4. And he is also the second player at wide receiver under the age of 24 to log at least 900 yards in their first 8 games of a season. The only other player to do that is none other than Isaac Bruce. That's pretty damn good company to be in. We are talking about a Hall of Fame player there who was a part of one of the greatest teams in NFL history. It speaks for itself. It truly does. What more can I say? It's just damn great to see. And again, credit enough to the defense as well. Aiden Dirty, the defensive coordinator they mentioned, definitely on me not necessarily knowing who exactly the named defensive coordinator was. Obviously, Mike McDonald is a defensive-minded coach, but you're naturally going to believe that someone is taking up those responsibilities. That man is on his fucking shit this season. I'm going to tell you that right now. I thought it was still Leslie Frazier there, but I guess not anymore. Either way, bro, tremendous fucking work. As for a few numbers from the Commanders, again, rougher game for Jayden Daniels, 153 yards and an interception, long on the rushing touchdown and 51 yards on the ground prior to the injury. Still just incredibly unfortunate stuff. Oh yeah, as this game also went underway, I suppose that Frankie Louvu had yet another hip drop tackle. And I was thinking to myself, was it related to one of the first plays of the game for the Seahawks? I wasn't necessarily sure. Either way, it was initially reported that he would be suspended for multiple hip drop violations. Yet, just now, as I was looking back on the website and looking back at different stuff, the NFL stated yesterday that they reduced his suspension to a $100,000 fine, and he'll end up playing in the next game against the Lions. All I'm saying is this: if he does that again, and you just come off of giving him a pass, I don't know how it really makes you look. When again, the NFL has constantly been preaching safety. over the years in a number of different facets. You're trying your best to protect the player, but if these, violations have been more of a pattern and egregious, why would you be giving Uvu any leeway here? I don't really understand that. They're just really going to have to monitor that. Yeah, though, even with it being a blowout and even with some tough sledding, some very devastating injuries on that Commander side, was still a through and through just tremendous game from the Seahawks. You can't put together a much better one than that, truthfully. Alright, moving on to the Vikings and the Lions, and to be honest, I could only watch pockets of this game. But it ended up being just as competitive as one would expect. I mean, even though the way that the series for the season ended off last year was pretty, the Lions fucked this team up. And we know how Sam Darnold performed in that game. But hey, on to this season. That's besides the point. The Lions got some early action going before I came in there to watch, with Laporta just muscling his way into the end zone from 40 yards out that I saw him post. The fact that Josh Metellus and Harrison Smith were involved in this play and didn't manage to get the tackle at all is pretty shocking to me with what they've done over their entire careers. But, I mean, hey, you know what they tell you about those Iowa tight ends, so that's not really that surprising from Sam Laporta's perspective. And a similar result would come on this ensuing Vikings drive that I did watch in person. They just started churning their way down the field. Now, granted, Miles Price in this game was getting some exceptional kickoff returns, and this one was no different. The fact that they could start out at the 36-yard line, I mean, shit, you didn't have that much room to work with. You didn't need to do all that much. All you had to do was just stick to your game, and they did that. They started imposing their will pretty early, with Aaron Jones Sr. making, just honestly putting his imprint all over the game early on, getting a couple solid runs in, and then somehow managing to convert a screen off 3rd and 9 to get them in the goal-to-go territory. They made the weird decision to put Amik Robertson on Justin Jefferson. I mean, to an extent, with the way that their injuries were, that was the matchup at times in the season series last year, but there are levels to this thing. And Justin Jefferson just went up like this with one fucking hand. One hand, his right hand. Snagged it right over Robertson with relative ease. Pretty good throw from J.J. McCarthy too, and that would tie up the ball game. I did also catch that the Lions would go 3 and out on the ensuing drive, and then from there, I didn't really start getting back into this again up until later on in the third quarter. But a lot of stuff did happen from what I saw in post. T.J. Hawkinson would get a measure of revenge on his former team to give them the lead and eventually end off the first quarter that way. Then the Lions would even things up as we progressed into the second, with them getting their second 4th down conversion for touchdown. David Montgomery bursting right up the middle here for a score. And then from there, while the Vikings would get the advantage, neither team really budged all that much, aside from a huge 31-yard run from Aaron Jones Sr. in the midst of all this. The Lions themselves could not really initiate any offense, specifically in the rushing game. They were pressuring the shit out of Jared Goff, and he was just getting completely lit the hell up. But again, that's a lot of emphasis that, goes into disrupting the balance that the Lions would very much like to operate with. We know that they've gassed a ton of teams this season on the ground with that duo, and they were struggling. They were kept very quiet for the most part. Not a tremendous impact on this game at all up to this point. even an interception forced by Terrion Arnold didn't really do them any good, as the score will remain the same heading into halftime. Now, from what I did see in post, the Lions did have themselves a chance to get a solid drive going. I mean, they had already gone 3-and-out at this point, but the defense was still holding strong, doing whatever it is they needed to do to get them back out on the field and give them all the ammo to at least pay it forward. And they damn near did that. Now, they were backed up in a 3rd-and-long situation. And David Montgomery, let's just say he nearly managed to pick up the first down on this run. Or at the very least, did enough to ensure that Jack Fox would have enough space to get a punt off if he, perchance, got tackled just before the line of game. However, he failed to recognize that there was a linebacker in his midst waiting to punch the ball out of his hands from behind. It was clean. He was standing upright the whole time, and from there it was just a scramble for the ball that would eventually be recovered by Harrison Smith, and that would once again give the Vikings a short drop this time around. Kind of reversal of fortune here. And they themselves would have J.J. McCarthy just run in for a 9-yard touchdown run. And as we get a little bit into this Lions job, this is where I got right back into the game. Jameson Williams definitely put together a solid sequence here. He managed to get himself a first down conversion earlier in the drive. And then this damn 3rd-and-long here saw him get some extra effort in after the catch, spinning off people and just utilizing his speed to his full advantage to pick up 18 yards on this play and keep hope alive for this team. It was getting closer and closer to the fourth quarter, but as long as they came away with something on this drive, it was bound to be successful. Yet, you don't want to end your drive with Eric Wilson absolutely fucking up Jared Goff and his immobile ass in the backfield for a sack. Pushed them back a little bit, but Jake Bates still managed to get in the field goal and make this one-possession ball game, which is really all that you can ask for. This entire sequence for the Lions in the fourth quarter had to be absolutely tough to go through. I mean, defensively, they did as best as they could. You know, Aaron Jones Sr. wasn't necessarily getting as many explosive plays as he was. They kept Jordan Mason in check. And they forced J.J. McCarthy to make some errant decisions. They also funneled him over to Aiden Hutchinson. And we know what the newly paid man is going to do to him. He sacked him. So that led to a 3-and-out. And from there, the Lions at this point were just considering trying to shift the tone of this game. They knew that they had momentum on their side. And they just needed to put together a pretty elaborate drive here to tie this thing up. Maybe even take the lead if they so chose. The rushing attack was okay at best, but when it came time for them to rely on the pass, they got some stuff going occasionally. This fourth down would prove to be critical. Goff's reads were taken away initially, and Sam Laporta smartly decided to improvise his route a little bit. He got that done just in time for Goff to find him, and from there he got a 17-yard gain to pick up the first down on this play. Now, the fact that they continued to have penalties derail their drive certainly didn't help, but as they attempted to go for it on fourth down later on in the drive, Grenard was so anxious and excited to try to go after Jared Goff that he jumped off sides. And they baited him into what would be a free play, and yet again the Lions' drive was extended. But it would hurt them tremendously that they couldn't do anything with it. They picked it up in the rushing attack, but Jahmyr Gibbs is still severely limited here. And not only did they lose yards by a penalty, but they also gave Jalen Redmond a career high for sacks in the game, if I'm not mistaken. Just crept right back over there through the middle of the line and managed to make that happen. But hey, maybe you come away with points, and no. Levi Drake Rodriguez, I believe, got vertical as hell to be a big defensive lineman, and he swatted the hell out of that kick. And just like that, now the Lions were in a really detrimental spot. Because while Isaiah Rodgers Sr. wouldn't score a touchdown on this, they were in close enough range to ensure that as long as they protected the football, they could come away with some points. And they definitely could have gotten the touchdown on this drive with the way that they were running the ball. But I don't know what this decision on 3rd and goal was for the Vikings. They had J.J. McCarthy roll out to his left, and they had just all linemen in that area kind of spacing out, getting some blocks down the field, which again, I suppose it's legal in that case. There was virtually no eligible Vikings receiver in that area. I don't know how they expected J.J. McCarthy to succeed in that situation. He tried to scramble. It wasn't enough. Literally, who was he supposed to target on that play? All the action is going on over to the right side of the field. You think he's going to be able to roll back over that way and hit somebody across his body? Like, that play would only be successful if you ask him to do the thing that you never do as a quarterback. And that's how you know that was just completely busted from the get-go. But hey, again, you protect the ball. J.J. McCarthy at least understood to do that, and they would get themselves a 10-point lead. The Lions, despite being on the offensive now, they had no choice. They had to try to get multiple scores and an onside kick mixed in somewhere. But the whole idea was to get it in before the 2-minute warning, and they failed to do that. For whatever reason, they incorporated this run on 2nd down and 2, thinking that they were going to get the first down off of it. Yet they ended up being just short, and just like that, the 2-minute warning pass, even with them getting some solid plays from Amon-Ra St. Brown early in the drive, when it comes to catching it, they still desperately needed to score fast and find a way not to waste any of their timeouts. Because the second they use any one of them, it was going to be a done deal. And you're asking them to pull off something that is pretty much impossible. And we'll get to that later on. Oh, my goodness. But when they needed him the most, Jameson Williams clutched the fuck up. We need a chunk play. We need it fast. And we don't want or intend to waste any timeouts. Okay, how about Jameson Williams streaking down the sideline on Isaiah Rodgers Sr., getting a spinning catch, and then working the sideline to the point where he's literally walking the tightrope, and he dives out a few yards away from the end zone, gets in for the touchdown to make this a one-possession ball game and give the Lions some new life. It looked incredibly promising as well once J.J. McCarthy and this running back group completely mixed up the first down play. Mason apparently was supposed to run in that direction, and it ended up just looking like a weird passing concept. Now, McCarthy still managed to get some yards out of it, but okay, if they're going to run that shit, fine, okay. We see you. And, you know, for a while, things were going according to plan. They stopped their second down run, but it came down to third down, knowing that they needed to stop. And it was going to be interesting to see if the Vikings would trust J.J. McCarthy in this situation or not. But Kevin O'Connell put the faith in him. And McCarthy dropped back, put a good back shoulder fade on Jalen Naylor. I mean, literally catches it at the shoulder pad. You can't throw that any better. And he hauled it in right over Arthur Mollett for the first down conversion. That would effectively end the game to give the Vikings a 27-24 win. Absolutely wild stuff, to say the least. But it ended up all coming together by the end. For the numbers, Jared Goff had 284 yards and 2 touchdowns on 67.6% completion. But the rushing attack was just non-existent in this game. And the Vikings gave themselves a very great chance once they completely nullified that element of their game. Both Montgomery and Gibbs combined for just 65 yards on 3.2 yards per pop. Very rare to see that from this duo. But the Vikings can say that they pulled it off. And again, you could say that that was directly directly correlated to them winning this game, I should say. Amon-Ra St. Brown had 9 receptions for 97 yards. Sam Laporta had 6 receptions for 97 yards and a touchdown. And Jameson Williams had 4 receptions for 66 yards and a touchdown. As for the Vikings, J.J. McCarthy had 143 yards and 2 touchdowns and an interception, along with 12 rushing yards and a rushing touchdown. Again, they're going to be growing pains still, even with him now having missed all of this time. But when you're already at a point where they are asking you to pass the ball to deliver them a win, essentially, and you come through, I mean, that's definitely something that you'll have to consistently look back on, honestly. That's a very great sign. And he made it worth their while. Aaron Jones Sr. had a total of 11 touches for 98 yards. Jordan Addison had 2 receptions for 48 yards. And Justin Jefferson had 6 receptions for 47 yards and a touchdown. Moving on to a very minimal amount of bonus coverage between the Broncos and the Texans. This one is just, it was already going to be a battle as it was. These defenses are obviously 2 of the better ones in the NFL. Just all around. That much was clear from the get-go. So this was definitely going to be a defensive struggle either way. But between the Broncos trying to offense and the Texans just trying to manage without C.J. Stroud, who would be ruled out of this game with a concussion, and now, as it just came through, is also out against the Jags with the same injury. You got relatively little on the offensive front. I mean, yes, the Broncos did get a couple touchdowns in this game, but it was still close through and through, with the Texans legitimately just settling for field goal after field goal after field goal. When you get into the fourth quarter, where this started, as they did start it out getting a touchdown from R.J. Harvey, and also getting a 2-point conversion to make it 15-all. And again, both teams are just trying to claw away at drives, but couldn't really pull anything out of their ass. Davis Mills would have the ball on this particular drive that I got into. And again, I'd ask, hey, they've got a shot. Could he pull it off? Then I looked and I recognized who the fuck we're talking about here. We're talking about Davis Mills. Could we really believe for 1 second that he was going to do it? No. And he certainly wouldn't. Zach Allen just made one simple move to get into his grill, and he just folded up completely. The Broncos would get the ball back with a chance to win, and they'd get it going. This play would be the most brutal one of this drive, though. Bo Nix managed to creep out with everybody being so far back in coverage and focused on other routes, and he got a 25-yard gain running to the left side of the field, and also saving time by getting out of bounds. Like, that was just... There's no better way that you could draw that up in that situation. You keep the ball in harm's way, and you get a nice gain out of it as well. They would just keep the ball on the ground between J.K. Dobbins and Bo Nix, because that would make sense. That would definitely be the game plan as we're getting closer and closer into the game being completely on the line. Will Lutz would step out there, and Sean Payton would tell him, hey, right through the uprights. And what do you know? Will Lutz, with the game on the line, even though he's had his fair share of inconsistencies at times, he would bang it in to give the Broncos the 18-15 victory. In this game, yeah, I don't know, again, like, how is it that the Broncos offense can go through those kinds of spells, but then also manage to have games like this as an offense? That makes you question a whole hell of a lot about this team. 173 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception on 48.6% completion for Bo Nix. Like, how are you letting them get away with that? I don't really understand. RJ Harvey, in fact, led all receivers on the Broncos side with 5 receptions for 51 yards and a touchdown somehow. Meanwhile, the Texans, again, even without C.J. Stroud being in the state, they have an overall problem. Mills had 137 yards passing on 56.7% completion. But this rushing attack is still so underwhelming. Just 28 carries for 77 yards and 2.8 yards per carry. That's pathetic. It is absolutely pathetic. Like, there's not much more for me to add about that. You just have to... Like, they played them as well as they could have. Defensively. They played them as well as they could have. And still, it would not be enough to knock them off. That's just a tough gut feeling, but what are you going to do? Alright. Moving on to the Chiefs and the Bills. We know what the storyline is. We know that. When push comes to shove, there is no getting around it. The Bills and the Chiefs are just bound to light it up every time they share a match together. And that didn't really change all that much in this game, though it was a much slower burn. I mean, they just started driving down the field immediately, going right at Jalen Watson for the Chiefs on multiple occasions. And also having James Cook just continue to impose his style of running all over this Kansas City defense. Though, even with him being in, they still did not understand the concept of watching out for Ty Johnson out of the backfield. And he would pick up a later first down in them before eventually having Josh Allen throw a fucking ball over to Dalton Kincaid for a 23-yard touchdown catch. And I mean, he completely cooked the man Tranquil, bro. He cooked him. The corner route and that cut would be so nasty, he literally dropped to the fucking ground. And tried to dive for a tackle, but by that point, he automatically cleared his ass. That's gotta be so damn tough. This was a very odd game for the Chiefs, to say the least, though. And I mean, granted, Buffalo has consistently been formidable at home. A 3-and-out is decent. Okay. And to be honest, to their credit, they did manage defensively to force a turnover on downs and did have a optimal response with a touchdown run for none other than Rashee Rice. Tried the shit last week against Washington. Didn't pan out so well due to penalty. Well, the play would stand here, got in from 3 yards out, and tied up this ball game. But from that point forward, you saw a Chiefs offense, even at full strength, just kind of, if you want to call it stagnation, fine. I mean, for a good portion of this game, the Bills were just all over it. They were. It's as simple as that. Now, their offense in this stretch for a little bit, believe me, Karlaftis managed to combo sack Josh Allen here, and to Kansas City's credit, would have Rashee Rice consistently be a threat on the outside, like we know it. You'd also have Clyde Edwards-Helaire step in the game for some reason. He was re-signed with the team for just this game, I suppose. But then the Bills started to really turn things up a little bit. Now, there's no explaining why exactly Dalton Kincaid got that wide open down the field as he was. But, I mean, it was a long developing play, and he waited until Kincaid had the clear stride advantage on the man to get it out to him in space. He ended up doing all the rest after the catch. There ain't nothing wrong with a little bit of that sometimes. It was the Ty Johnson show from there, and he would give them the lead. A lead that, to be honest, they would not give back up. I just don't really know how to explain this Chiefs offense down the stretch. It was, man, whether you look at penalties, whether you look at turnovers on down, their rushing game being completely limited in this game, though granted that was going to happen already with Isaiah Pacheco being out with a knee injury at this time. And while they would have some progress down the stretch, I mean, they did get a field goal near the end of the half with Travis Kelce and Marquise Brown getting back-to-back explosive plays down the field to get them in field goal range in the first place. They could not prolong their drives. They couldn't. I mean, every time you were looking and you saw them going 3-and-out or you saw them getting stopped in a crucial situation, I cannot count to you how many times, and it wasn't just him, that whole defense at all levels completely neutralized Patrick Mahomes, especially when you consider the game that he had overall. However, Cole Bishop had to have like 4 pass deflections in this game by himself. And that coverage on the back end was so great to where Mahomes was susceptible to getting sacked. He was waiting so long for these routes to open up, and they just refused to allow that to happen. As a result, the Bills would go up by as much as 15 points. They ground out a solid drive and managed to get themselves in the end zone with Josh Allen rushing for a touchdown from a yard out. And it put the Chiefs in an interesting situation, to say the least. I mean, there was still time, of course, but they needed to get themselves back in the fight. They were completely out of it, completely neutralized on that front. They had to do something. Man. The Chiefs would very much get that to happen, though with a few interesting conversions. I mean, 3rd down early in this drive, even as they're backed up all the way, Mahomes managed to deliver a fucking dime to Marquise Brown for 33 yards to convert there. But it didn't stop, because Gregory Rousseau and Joey Bosa put Mahomes in a predicament where he was now in 4th and 17. At that point, the Bills had thought that they'd done everything right to that point. And they were pursuing Mahomes pretty well in this play. But they allowed Rashee Rice to execute the scramble drill, get open across the middle of the field, and still carve out a 29-yard gain. And once more, they got themselves in a 4th down situation. This time, pretty manageable, because they've been damn near historically accurate, I should say, on 4th and short in terms of anything inside of 1 to 2 yards. They got themselves in that spot, and Kareem Hunt literally kicked down the fucking barrier. Got himself in the end zone for a score. To make this a little more compelling. They've been in this situation before, they probably thought. And honestly, you couldn't blame them if that was the mindset brewing at that point. Now, the Chiefs managed to string together some good stops. Not before having George Karlaftis get incredibly faked out by some Josh Allen pump fakes. Or not before you had James Cook get himself a 1st down run and literally say what's up to the fucking running back core on Kansas City sideline. Some troll type of stuff, man. It's wild. But they would manage to get themselves the ball back halfway, or past halfway, through the 4th quarter. And the goal in that situation, the key, is to, again, assume ball control and keep everything secure. That did not happen. Interestingly enough, is at this point at the game that you saw a bit more inclusion from some of the Bills' draft picks this year. I mentioned that Jordan Hancock got a tackle right here, but they put Maxwell Hairston in the game. Now, this was his 2nd appearance of the year, they mentioned, but it had been the first game that I've seen him play in live. And we know that they drafted him for his speed. And promptly, they decided to match him up on Xavier Worthy. As smart as that was, and as good as that could fare for them in the future if he does manage to develop, I just gotta make it clear consistently that the Bills had a chance to draft both. It was their decision to pass up on Xavier Worthy. in the first place, or accept the deal that eventually landed the Chiefs Xavier Worthy. And again, all you have to fucking do is draft that man out of spite. You handed him on a silver platter. I'm just saying. That being said, Maxwell Harrison, with the help of Joey Bosa getting some great pressure, because that's the Ohio State man that he is, right? He would get his first career interception as the ball was thrown in Xavier Worthy's direction. So, I mean, I guess that ended up working out. Okay. The Bills were just playing keep away at that point. You did get one pass on this drive, but it was mostly all run, forcing Kansas City to use all their timeouts, getting it past a 2-minute warning, and leaving them with very little time to work with as it was. But shockingly, or maybe not shockingly, because again, Matt Prater is obviously old, man. And it's like, yes, in his younger years, he'd have the leg, but you're asking that man to kick a 52-yarder to close out the game. And again, with his age at this point, it's going to be hard to make that happen. But it was such a narrow miss that it's like, damn. The Bills fans were definitely feeling that for a second. And they were just hoping and praying that they did not allow some madness to go down in this one. The very first Xavier Worthy catch damn near gave him a heart attack. But they would manage to force incomplete passes all the way through. Granted, this incomplete pass to Thorn had a tremendous chance. I'm not going to lie. It got tipped up in the air in the end zone. And as it's falling behind those guys, you have Marquise Brown just a few steps away from the football, but not in good enough position to dive for it and catch it. So they chuck one up yet again, but it fails. And thus, the Bills would come out of this one getting another regular season win against Kansas City, 28-21. As for the Bills, looking at the numbers here, Josh Allen had a pretty good overall game. Yes, they'll make fun of his 1-yard touchdown runs. But 292 total yards and 3 total touchdowns to rushing for him with 88.5% completion. I think they mentioned that this was the highest in Bills history. With a minimum of 25 passes, I would assume. And it's like, you can't discredit that. I mean, as many total touchdowns as incompletions, you're definitely doing everything you have to do in that situation. Now, granted, with the Bills having that advantage at home, they're naturally going to call some things short. But again, you had your fair share of deeper passes in there, so that's not necessarily an issue. James Cook III just keeps it going as well. 27 rushes and 114 yards for him on the ground. And Dalton Kincaid had 6 receptions for 101 yards and a touchdown. As for the Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes had 250 yards and an interception, while by a completion percentage standpoint, with 44.1%, having by far his worst regular season performance in that aspect, in the first time in his career in the regular season that he's ever had below 50% completion in a game. Like I said, Bishop was flying all over the place if I look at this shit. Yeah, 4 pass deflections and 7 tackles for him in this game, along with the TFL. He was all over the fucking place. Like, it was fucking wild, man. And he also got sacked 3 times. I mean, one of them had more just get completely bull rushed, and you have a rusher getting in there. But that is a stark contrast from how they had been playing over the past few weeks. No matter what, though, the Chiefs, yet again, after having that streak of one-score victories, still have yet this season to win a game in that situation. Still. Again, when you go through that kind of streak and have luck be on your side that many times if you're the Chiefs, even if, again, you have the talent to supplement that, when it comes to that stuff, you're not always going to fall on the right side of the coin here. It's hard to replicate something like that. And the Chiefs are finding this to be true to the utmost extent right now. Rashee Rice would have 4 receptions for 80 yards and a rushing touchdown, while Marquise Brown would have 2 receptions for 73 yards, and Travis Kelce would have 4 receptions for 66 yards. All right. Moving on for the Monday Night Football game that I watched to cap this part of it off. The Cardinals will face off against the Cowboys in Dallas. And pretty much everything was going on down there. Jerry Jones was going on a press run. You had First Take and Stephen A. Smith get down there for all the festivities. Had Michael Irvin pop out, etc., etc. It was all going crazy, all in anticipation and leading up to this game right here. So, where do I even start? Where? The fact that you had Josh Sweat single-handedly move grown-ass men out of position to hunt down Dak Prescott consistently. And that's how this first drive would end up going. Similar thing with the Cowboys here as well. Similar thing. You're getting down the field as an offense, but you are finding ways to fuck up drives through self-inflicted wounds and turnovers. And I don't know. It's like, honestly, that drive was promising as well. You had Javonte Williams, run strong as shit to open up this game. For a while, the Cardinals could not stop that man. But you get that miscue to end off the drive. And then, I shit you not, you saw the Cowboys defense in full force and not in a good way. For the Cardinals to average just 4 yards of play on this drive and yet milk the clock all the way down to 3 minutes and some change, simply because you cannot buy a stop for your fucking lives. This shit is crazy. I mean, as good as Deron Bland is, they were just going at him in back-to-back third down plays. Third and long, mind you. Because the Cardinals' rushing attack coming into this isn't in the best condition right now. They weren't really going to be that much of a threat in this game. I guess in volume that would be the case. But early on, you're not worried about them. You have them backed up as far as you possibly can. 3rd and 8, 3rd and 10, 3rd and 6, 3rd and 6 again. We're all converted. 2 back-to-back to Marvin Harrison Jr., getting comeback routes with just good timing from Jacoby Brissett. A dumb penalty for Marquise Bell not being able to guard Trey McBride for some reason. And then just having Michael Wilson target Deron Bland again and muscle his way into a conversion. Even the 3rd and 5 that was missed here to Marvin Harrison Jr. later in the drive in Dallas territory had a great chance of being completed. He was open. Jacoby Brissett just had a piss poor throw. What are you going to do? And yet still somehow the Cowboys almost managed to come out of that unscathed. Because Chad Ryland almost missed this damn field goal. Almost. He made it just barely. Man. And from there, it just, I don't know. Like, I don't know what happened. It was all just so weird for the Cowboys. All of it is bad. It's like, I don't know. You go 3 and out on this damn drive here because you're in a spot where your team literally cannot stay disciplined at this point. And it cost them mightily. Now, they did have a decent defensive start to this, with Ejiraku burying an immobile Brissett in the backfield. Don't get me wrong. But yet again, on 3rd and fucking 14, they can't get off the field. They allow Marvin Harrison Jr. to get in over the middle on an in-breaking route, and he absolutely torched DaRon Bland. But that wouldn't even be the worst of it, because they started to get the rushing attack going a little bit between DeMercado and also Bam Knight. But this was the play right here. This was the play. You get man-to-man coverage throughout as Jacoby Brissett drops back to pass this, with Marvin Harrison Jr. facing off against DaRon Bland again. There's very little room to work with, so you have to get as creative as possible to create enough space to make the catch. And granted, Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to have the size advantage on him anyways. I look away for a brief second and see that Marvin Harrison Jr. is about to make his cut. And I shit you not, this man, DaRon Bland, hit the fucking turf and got his legs swept from under him, while Marvin Harrison Jr. completed the slant for the touchdown catch. And then I had to see it in full. The man broke his fucking ankles. And it was at that point that I knew that the Cowboys stood no fucking chance in that game whatsoever. I don't care how badly DaRon Bland was getting torched in that game to start it out. He is paid like and is probably the best cover corner that they have on that team. And if he could not guard Marvin Harrison Jr., if he could get dropped by Marvin Harrison Jr., I want you to understand that. From a simple slant route, simple technique, nothing too crazy, but the move was so flawless and he just fucking fainted to the ground. Like, you are going out like that against him? You, the best guy that they have right now, with Trayvon Diggs being on IR and with a rookie flanking you on the outside, with Kyer Elam's cone ass in the slot, not even being trusted to play outside right now. That's happening to you as their supposed best guy. If you couldn't handle that job, nobody was going to. And to that point, Marvin Harrison Jr. punctuated a career-high first half for himself. While also, and I kept on having to think about it, because I thought it was a typo initially, but then after thinking through it a little more, it wasn't. He was on pace to set a career high in receptions in a game almost immediately. And yet still, the bullshit didn't stop for this team. Again, they drove down the field. But Jake Ferguson would get fucking ripped from behind by Mack Wilson Sr., who was also everywhere in this game. Like, the Cardinals had some pretty good individual defensive performances all over the place in this one. And that was a highlight player for them on that side. I'm not going to lie to you, man. It was tremendous stuff from him. And Garrett Williams was also pulling Jake Ferguson down at the same time. But now there's a scramble for the ball. And while the Cardinals do get it, we got to get Taylor Demerson out of here. They're trying to get the ball, and I see this man, Taylor Demerson, tip the shit right back up. And you have some Cowboys players in the area at the same time. Luckily for him, Budda Baker is closer to the ball. But it's like, what the fuck are you doing? Just make the play. Just make the play. We saw the same shit from him in the Titans game. They eventually lost because of his ass putting the ball on the ground after an interception. What is the psyche in that moment for this dude? I don't really get it. It didn't cost them, but they gotta get that nigga out of here, bro. I'm not gonna lie. They gotta. That gave the Cardinals a chance to make something happen, but offensively, while they couldn't get anything going, defensively, they made some progress here with Jadeveon Clowney getting back there and rushing the passer for one of the few times. Then, Sam Williams, who had been demoted to special teams over this time, he would actually make a great play for them, getting his head in the area of the ball and just taking a beam straight to the side of his face. At least he had his helmet on. But it ended up being a block punt, and you would have Marshon Nealon get a scoop six, essentially, on the play. That got them back into it. But defensively, still, it was just belt to ass for this Cardinals unit. It was here that they fully started to deploy Bam Knight. And there was absolutely nothing the Cowboys could do about it. Yet, no one could have anticipated a Jacoby Brissett quarterback sneak, giving the Cardinals yet another score here. And that is exactly what would happen with them taking a 17-7 lead, essentially to go into the half. And I will say also, the Cowboys mismanaged this completely. Like, bruh. They got some progress going, okay? And yes, I get that you were going to have the clock continue with Jake Ferguson still being engaged with inbounds. I get that. But I saw no urgency there whatsoever. And you forced Brandon Aubrey to kick from 68 yards. Now, granted, I'll have to get into this in a second, of course. But he could definitely make this. Don't get me wrong. He would miss. And to be honest, I couldn't even blame him. It's like, yo, all you need is one more play to get into closer range for the man. As long as you do that, you know he's got you. Why are you trying to make him go and do that just to get you on the board? Like, you got to have that in the back of your mind to be ready to dial up at least one more play to get a substantial amount of yardage to work with. And they did not try to do that whatsoever. It was weird. The third quarter would see a lot more of the same shit. I mean, Michael Wilson broke free over to the left side of the field and just ran rampant for 50 yards just because. Then Trey McBride cooked the absolute shit out of Marquise Bell in coverage to get himself a score. And Also, I guess eventually make him the third tight end in NFL history to have 5 or more receptions in 10 straight games, with both Travis Kelce and Tony Gonzalez doing the same thing. It's a great list to be a part of course. I mean, come on now. Like, you have to give respect there. But yeah, how about the rookie play from some of these guys? Even though there were a few struggles here and the Cowboys would get a field goal on this drive anyways, Will Johnson, Cody Simon from Ohio State, Denzel Burke from Ohio State, Walter Nolan III from Ole Miss. Bro, you could not escape hearing their names at multiple points in this game, especially down the stretch of this. Even though Josh Sweat would get himself back there for a sack as it was, even with them being in go-to-go territory. You know, that was their big fish in free agency. I understand that. But, those guys went to fucking work out there. I mean, literally. Yeah, while the Cowboys themselves, now down by 17 following this, would get back down the field as they entered the fourth quarter. Man, the CeeDee Lamb catch allowed by anybody, honestly. Like, Will Johnson was on this initially. You have somebody responsible for the flat, and they just lose CeeDee Lamb, which you can never fucking do. That was definitely a gaffe, but they locked the fuck up. You had Walter Nolan III get a pass deflection and a no-gain stuff damn near on back-to-back fucking plays. Then you had Denzel Burke engage CeeDee Lamb in the open field perfectly for a tackle, and it forced 4th and 3. Now, that was decision time for the Cowboys, but honestly, your aggressiveness, your bold aggressiveness cost you a score earlier in the game. Were you really willing to do the same thing, or were you allowing yourselves to give some sort of trust over to your defense? And I guess they just wanted to remain as aggressive as possible instead of getting your guaranteed 3 points with Brandon Aubrey. They had Dak Prescott go for it all, and they sent the fucking heat. Believe me. Josh Sweat was crashing right in the man's fucking face. And while CeeDee Lamb gets a hand on it for a second, the Ohio State man and Denzel Burke got up for that shit, deflected it, and that ended the drive right there. While the Cardinals themselves have consistently just crumbled in the fourth quarter of the season, especially over the past 5 games, it was not enough to really enliven the Cowboys' efforts enough. Now, granted, yes, they did follow this up with a touchdown drive, but even that was just not really, like, it wasn't clean. I mean, George Pickens was doing all this fighting for extra yardage, and the ball got fucking punched out by Garrett Williams, with Javonte Williams managing to get the ball back somehow a few yards up the field, because that's just fucking weird. And then the very next play would see George Pickens fumble again, with the Michigan man and Will Johnson getting his hands in there this time, yet still finding a way to get it back. Like, what? Okay, all right. They get down after a good Javonte Williams run before Ryan Flournoy, of all fucking people, would get the touchdown catch. And it was looking good for the Cowboys' efforts, with them getting sacks from both the Dante Fowler Jr. and also the rookie in Stewart on this drive. Looking very promising. They fucked it. They 100% fucked this shit. Like, I mean, bro. I don't think any one drive, even with what I mentioned, encapsulates what the fuck happened in this game better than this shit right here. You get a tremendous gain of yardage to pick up a first down. But all the progress gets wiped out just because George Pickens wants to fucking taunt the Ohio State man in Denzel Burke by holding out the football in his direction. And it resets your whole operation, whole mode here. Now, luckily for them, Dak Prescott managed to bail out of pressure and pick up a first down with his legs anyways. But it still wasn't consistent enough. Even with them managing to bait them into an offsides penalty. You had that shit followed up with Walter Nolan III again getting his name out there and burying Dak Prescott back there. Okay? Then, in a very seminal moment, for as great as this rivalry is, it's Ohio State all day. Fuck Michigan. But Cody Salmon and Will Johnson on this play would combine to do some pretty special shit. Because you have Will Johnson attempting to take Javonte Williams down low. Cody Salmon went high and crept up behind him and got right into his grip. Ripped the fucking ball clean out of his hands. And you had the Cardinals recover the fumble. You ain't gonna see it too many times. But if you get those forces to combine together, some crazy shit can happen. And it's like if you're a Cowboys fan in that situation, it's like, what the fuck? What the fuck? You have a chance to shorten this to a single possession. The Cardinals' defense was not perfect all day long. You had chances to continue exploiting them, and yet you could not deliver when it mattered the most. You couldn't deliver. The Cardinals would turn it over on downs again, but you would also have Denzel Burke get an interception, his first one of his NFL career. And hey, you gotta love that. But that only came after Calais Campbell literally sunned the shit out of the Cowboys' offensive line. Because, granted, they're depleted, but you have a different tackle out here in Thomas, I think it was, for the Cowboys, okay? And Campbell already barrels back there for a sack on Dak Prescott originally. Tell me why the play before Burke gets this interception and before that pressure on that play even takes place, this man just allows Campbell to push him out of the way and roam right into the backfield with his established veteran ass for the sack. That kind of shit is unacceptable. And the Cardinals will get themselves a 27-17 win, giving the Cowboys their first loss at home. Very fitting, I guess. But hey, it's always a great day when the Cowboys lose. Shit's embarrassing, though. Jacoby Brissett, in his first game in his NFL career against the Cowboys, walked in there and put together a good performance. 3 total touchdowns for him and 261 yards on 67.7% completion. As a unit, the Cardinals had 119 yards. Not bad, given their situation. Marvin Harrison Jr. had a career-high 7 receptions for 96 yards and a touchdown. Michael Wilson had 3 receptions for 61 yards. And Trey McBride had 5 receptions for 55 yards and a touchdown. Like I said, just all around great defensive performances for multiple players here. Especially when you look at the rookies. Burke, 2 pass deflections, an interception, and 7 tackles. Will Johnson, 6 tackles and a pass deflection. Walter Nolan III, a pass deflection, 2 TFLs, and a sack with 4 overall tackles. They were just balling the fuck out. And again, in time, man, if they can all develop, like, it makes this Cardinals defense incredibly dangerous. As for the Cowboys, we know what they are. We know what they are. Yet another underwhelming week for the offense. Don't get me wrong. Dak Prescott with 250 yards in this game, a touchdown and an interception on 61.5% completion. Like, that might not be saying much. Sure. Okay. CeeDee Lamb had 7 receptions for 85 yards, and George Pickens had 6 receptions for 79 yards. Javonte Williams also had 15 rushes for 83 yards on the ground. Those might not necessarily help. They might not have. But you are consistently relying on the Cowboys offense to be damn near perfect and lights out on a week-to-week basis. And while they may want to do that, it is not going to happen all the time, and that's not something that can be expected. Yet, you have no choice, because you can't stop the run, you can't rush the fucking passer, and the coverage on the back end, yeah, it's like that. Jerry, it's your fucking fault. It's your fault, bro. It's your fault. You caused this shit. Again, I'm going to keep on making that clear. Yes, players have to execute. But, god damn. Man, craziness. Absolute madness, bro. Alright, to get as briefly as I can into some of the other action here. What are the Packers doing? Can we please explain why they struggled against this Panthers team and then managed to lose to this team on a game-winning field goal, just like they did against the Browns earlier in the season? What is happening? Okay, like, we know that the Packers defense is that damn good, and granted, to still come out of this game holding the Panthers to 16 points on any other normal day would get you a victory. But that's only if the Packers offense decided to show up. Why the fuck is it that they managed to go on that tear in the second half against the Steelers and then come out and put up a fucking donut damn near for most of the rest of this game up until the fourth quarter? You didn't even get in a touchdown and in 4 touchdowns across this whole period of time. You got ugly fumbles in opponent territory. You got Jordan Love chucking up fuck it balls down the field like it's nothing. You got Brandon McManus still missing field goals and getting fucking cold shoulders from Matt LaFleur the whole time because of it. Like, what are we doing? This was a winnable game yet again. Yet somehow you do everything in your power to keep this close because you want to play down to the competition. That shit doesn't fucking exist. It's the Panthers. And your defense had been clamping them up the entire time. I mean, yes, Rico Donnell is still proven that he can't really be stopped at this point by many people. The man went off for a hell of a scrimmage game by himself. But when it comes to actually throwing the ball, Bryce Young was not making that shit happen. Wasn't. At all. He only finished with 100 yards on the nose passing. And they still come out of this, escape with a win, and now progress to matching their win total from last season while now being above 500. because of you losing to them. Like, what is that? The stuff is just unexplainable. Like, the numbers don't even do this any justice here, so I won't even really look at it from that perspective. It's just a damn shame. They got to be able to pull themselves together. Like, yeah, you've gotten some pretty good wins this season, and I mean, the tie is the tie. But you do recognize that with the Packers being in a tough division in the NFC North, as it is looking like right now, you need to be taking advantage of every one of these games that you can get. Because it gives you a cushion of some kind come time for conference play. In division play, I should say. It's crazy how you are okay with dropping something like this. It's horrible. Horrible, man. Panthers won that 16-13. Again, like I said, Rico Donnell went crazy. Not really getting into any of the other numbers here, per se. But combined 27 touches for 141 yards and 2 rushing touchdowns. Just an absolute beast. Meanwhile, Chuba Hubbard saw far less attention. So even though he's been named the starting running back, even though you would have thought previously they were running a bot committee system, it feels like Donald might be taking away some of those opportunities at this point. Moving on to the Falcons and the Patriots. Well, the Patriots, I mean, at least in the first half, aside from this fumble that I saw him post, with the rookies combining to make this play, they definitely looked very, very good. The problem was that they damn near allowed a complete and total reversal of fortune. I don't know how the Falcons managed to stick into this game, given that. And those are moments where you're looking at the Patriots offense and you're saying to yourself, okay, they'd been doing well all season long, but in a game like that, where you absolutely need to keep the Falcons on their toes, and you're failing to move the ball down the field effectively, you're turning it over, with Drake May having another interception on the season, getting picked off by Jesse Bates at third here. Those are just the sloppy plays you can't have. And I will say that the Patriots are incredibly lucky that John Parker Romo missed the PAT. Because if not, it would have put them in a very interesting spot, to say the least. Drake London was an absolute madman in this game, from what I saw in post. This game wasn't live. I mean, they did recently play Marcus Jones, okay, but to have him go up against Drake London, especially in the red zone, or anybody for that matter, I mean, shit reached ahead to the point where even on the final drive that led to yet another Drake London touchdown catch in this game, the brother mossed the living shit out of Christian Gonzalez. And that's Christian Gonzalez we're talking about. Went vertical and over that man for the fucking snag. How do you stop that? Somebody getting that big, that athletic with you, with that kind of catch radius that we know that Drake London has at this point. He's put that on display multiple times. And that was no different in this game, in which he had 9 receptions for 118 yards and a hat trick, accounting for all of Michael Penix Jr.'s touchdown passes. If they would have had to deal with him for any more time, the Patriots probably don't come out of this alive as a secondary. I gotta be honest about that. But nevertheless, the Patriots would escape. And that's mainly due to them holding Bijan Robinson in check yet again. Now, granted, he's still going to get his, but he wasn't that much of a force in the rushing attack as the Falcons would like him to be. And it's interesting to see that slide. I think more teams are just comfortable with allowing him to work out of the backfield. They don't want to deal with his combination of tangible qualities. Being a runner right now. That's what it appears to look like right now. Like, it's not to say that all these defensive lines that they faced off against are that great per se. But to go on weeks consecutively where the 49ers, the Dolphins, and now the Patriots, and again, Patriots have a great defense. So that's not necessarily the criteria here. But for all three of these teams to get a hold on you rushing the football, it might definitely force the Falcons to tweak some ways in which they try to implement him into the offensive game plan. The touches aren't going to stop. Like, Bijan Robinson is still a fucking monster. But they're going to have to find some more creative and unpredictable ways to catch defenses off guard. And granted, you'll still have your simple routine ones in there. Because on some nights, it's just going to be easier than others for him to get his. But against these tougher opponents, man, they're going to have to figure that out. Because they will definitely need him. Drake May, this game, had 259 yards and 2 touchdowns with an interception on 65.5% completion. Trevion Henderson actually led the way as a rusher with a total of 18 total touches for 87 total yards, 55 rushing. And Jennings had the touchdown run for them. And Mario Douglas had 4 receptions for 100 yards and a touchdown. Hunter Henry had 4 receptions for 51 yards. And Stephon Diggs also had 3 receptions for 38 yards and a touchdown. Along with his onslaught of off-field madness. Moving on to the Bears and the Bengals. And, honestly, with what I saw, Chase Brown, when talking about the Bengals consistently doing this bullshit on defense, he put it perfectly in the postgame, or one of the interviews he had with one of the postgame people. What the fuck? What the fuck was this game? Because I'm tracking it most of the time. It wasn't live. But anytime you get Chuck Jones, literally, how the fuck is he even still out on the field with the amount of injuries that I've been told that this man has suffered over the past few weeks alone? How the fuck is he still out there in the first place is the most ultimate question. And yet the man still managed to get a fucking 98-yard kickoff return on the very first play from scrimmage in the game. You knew some wild shit was going to go on from there. And you just got a game full of madness. You got fucking Caleb Williams rolling out on a damn near Philly special to get a fucking receiving touchdown before he got his first passing touchdown in multiple weeks. You had Kyle Mullenguy, the rookie, get 176 yards on the ground in a game that still saw both teams going back and forth through the air. This was definitely a casual NFL fan's favorite game, maybe this season. But the way that this shit went back and forth shows you just how fucked these teams still very much are. Both of them. Yes, the Bears typically have a stronger defense, but some of this shit is just wild to look at. For the Bears to have been up 41-27 at a point in the fourth quarter following DJ Moore getting a rushing touchdown. Okay, at that point the game should be over. The game should be over. You force an interception in a matter of a few drives with Kevin Byard potentially getting one, and then having Tremaine Edmonds, the athletic linebacker that he is, getting himself one later on in the drive to end their go-to-go attempt. The game should have been over. It wasn't over. It wasn't over. You got Noah Fant getting in over the seam for a 23-yard touchdown catch, and then for the very first time this season, a team recovered an onside kick. Bengals got it back, turned down the field, and managed to have Andre Yoshi Voss score the fucking touchdown to give the Bengals a temporary lead. If you're the Bengals in that situation, you did that shit. And granted, you gave the Bears, as soon as I saw it, 54 seconds left to work with, and they still had a timeout. Anything is possible, but in theory, the game should have been over. You had one fucking job. One job. And I'm going to say this shit right now. The fact that Caleb Williams even managed to get a 14-yard scramble on this is kind of crazy. But again, you're trying to keep everything in front of you and not let anything get behind you. That is the motto in that situation. As you have 25 seconds left on the clock. So tell me why Colston Loveland, the rookie from that fucking team up north, gets up the field and over the middle to high point the ball. But he's surrounded by Bengals. He should be tackled. No, he doesn't get fucking tackled. He breaks loose and gets a massive amount of yards after the catch to punctuate a career high day for his rookie season to this point and give himself his second touchdown on the day to essentially win the Bears the fucking game. And I had to understand because, again, I'm just seeing that they scored the touchdown from this range. And I thought at the time that they just got beat over the top. But then they showed the damn play. Live with the score alert. The Bengals defense is already shit. We know that. And you can't be surprised with Chase Brown saying that shit in the postgame. When you literally have the game done, over, and you give up that huge play? You know how demoralizing that shit is to have to consistently go through this. It's terrible. However, Chase Brown failed to say the most obvious thing. Wow. You could argue that he could have been a little more direct. Because when you're looking at the play, and when you look at who allowed Colston Loveland to break loose like this, I should have already seen it before making this video. Jordan fucking Battle and Geno fucking Stone need to be cut from the fucking team immediately. Both of them need to be cut. Both of them niggas. Real stuff. If you see that kind of stuff going on, there's a reason why the Ravens didn't even want Geno Stone in the first fucking place. And then what the hell is Jordan Battle doing? What is he doing? Like, how do you not understand technique to just wrap the fuck up and make a play. Why are you trying to go for the extra shit in that moment? Just make the fucking play. It's not that hard. Give yourself a fighting chance. They were definitely in field goal range at that point. But at the very least, you keep them in bounds. You rush a man in Cairo Santos who does not have the strongest leg in the world. And you at the very least have an opportunity to force a potential miss. You don't even get to that point because they fucking score a touchdown off of your stupidity. And yes, it's not just those two. Don't get me wrong. But you have to just sit back and, like, there are a mixture of emotions that come with it. You let Caleb Williams account for 4 total touchdowns and a touchdown catch in this one while having his best game in a while. You let Colston Loveland, a rookie, put together his best day. You had DJ Moore out here getting a fucking passing and rushing touchdown in this game. In the most egregious aspect of this entire thing, I don't even care with Jordan Battle having 11 tackles in this game to lead the team because you didn't make the one that mattered the fucking most. You didn't. The box score will not tell you that he missed and whiffed on the fucking tackle. I'm not worried about that shit. You needed to have number 12 right then, right there, and you didn't do it. And that cost you yet another game you had in the book. And it's always something. Yes, the defensive lapses were existent in the Jets game last week, but you had another chance to close that one out, and you fucking don't, and you lose by 1. So again, you can't be surprised with Chase Brown going off on him about that when they are having to deal with this week after week after week, and Joe Burrow's not even here, and you can't even say for sure that his presence would save their asses because this was still going on last season and they missed the fucking playoffs. Meanwhile, in relief, you have Joe Flacco putting together a fucking masterclass. The 2 interceptions that he had in this game were the first 2 he had with the fucking team. And with 66% completion and 4 touchdown passes, he became the oldest quarterback in NFL history to put up 470 passing yards, and it still was not enough for your asses to lock in as a unit and try to go out there and try to win them the fucking game. Like, where exactly is the line? At what point have you had enough as a unit getting clowned like this to retool everything? What is it going to take, man? And it wasn't even just the standpoint of him spamming it to Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, even if that is the overall goal. Every single player who caught a pass as a Bengal in this game had a high of 20 plus yards or longer on one of their catches, and all accounted for more than 27 yards in this game across 7 different wide receivers, distributing the ball all over the place. And yet you can't limit the Bears from doing the same thing to you, essentially. Like, they had a graphic that mentioned that the Cowboys coming into Monday night's game. Okay, just take it back there. They were the first team in NFL history to lose multiple games to start out the season despite averaging and scoring 30. Toronto Bengals being in positions where they've scored 35 plus just across the past few seasons. Look at their overall record in that time span. It is an aberration that you lose those games. Like the Bengals last season were legitimately on cloud nine as an offense, averaging damn near 40 in some of these cases. And it took that, and it still wasn't enough for them to close out ball games because they could not trust the defense to save their fucking lives. Just terrible. 47-42 win for the Bears. You can call this a gritty one, but man, it was just downright fucking ugliness. The Bengals have to give this shit up. They just have to. Like, something has to give at some point, bro. I'm telling you, it's not okay. It's not. My goodness. All right. The 49ers and the Giants. This one, you probably can't be fooled by this 34-24 score. The 49ers had control of this the entire way, to be honest. And, I mean, they had Mac Jones out here looking like a top 5 quarterback. Christian McCaffrey had a great all-around game as well. He had a combined 33 touches for 173 yards and 2 total touchdowns. That's about right. It's right on the money. Mac Jones had 235 passing yards, 2 touchdowns on 79.2% completion. And you had Jayden Daniels also get 4 receptions for 41 yards and a touchdown in this game. Obviously, things are going to be a little bit rougher for the Giants now without Cam Scatterboo in place. Like, even with them finishing with 117 yards and a touchdown on the ground, you could attribute some of that to garbage time. And it definitely wasn't perfect all day long. Like, I'm sure the 49ers were able to get after them a few good times in this game. Jackson Dart had 72.7% completion in this game for 191 yards and 2 touchdown passes. And Darius Slayton would lead the way for them with 5 receptions for 62 yards. Also, defensively, for both teams, Tatum Bethune still in relief for Fred Warner would put together a 16-tackle game with a pass deflection. Shout out to him. You would also have Bobby Okereke get 14 tackles in this game in a TFL for the Giants, while Dane Belton had 13. So that's respect, okay? All right. Colts Steelers. Definitely could have been a watch, but again, not everything was working. This is really going to be about how you want to view this thing. Do you view this as an off day for Indy? Do you view this as the Steelers finding their footing on defense? Do you think that Daniel Jones is riding back to his New York days? Do you think this is going to be the consistent norm for Jonathan Taylor having a poor day at the office? I don't know. What does one truly lead themselves to believe in a situation like this? All that belief and all that uncertainty has to be cast aside for reality, though. Because that's what this game comes down to right here, right? The Colts lost the turnover margin by 5, with Daniel Jones accounting for 5 turnovers in this game. And as a team, they had 6 turnovers compared to the Steelers' 1. The Steelers did not even have a great offensive day at the office. They had 38 rushing yards on 1.7 yards per carry on the ground. They held DK Metcalf to 2 receptions in 6 yards in this game. They didn't do jack shit. And they didn't have to do jack shit because you're giving them free possession after short field to work with. If you're turning the ball over 6 times in any game, any chance you think that you have to somehow win the game is probably thrown out of the window. Even if you had this within a touchdown score. There was no shot in hell you were winning this game. If that is what's going down. There was no way. Like the Colts defense did their thing and they got a turnover themselves. But at what moment? Again, what is the baseline? 1, okay. 2, yeah, sure. 6, like that's way more than just a bad day at the office. And it will be interesting to see how the Colts do try to regroup from that shit as they go over to face off against the Falcons in Germany. Like, as an offense, that's just, We're going to learn a lot about the Colts then, in that case. Again, they question their legitimacy as a contender because, for them having this large cushion on a division in the AFC South that really just does not look to be that great right now. They have not gotten a lot of strong wins this season in the eyes of some people. And the Steelers game could have been an interesting one from that perspective. They did not. They got bullied. They got fucking bullied in this game. And it compelled them to make some interesting choices that may or may not have correlation with this. Also, how is it that you had Pittman Jr. and Pierce both put up 115-yard efforts in this game? It still amounted to nothing. Because, again, even with you making that progress down there, even with Daniel Jones having 342 passing yards in this game, you could not protect the football. And I don't care if Daniel Jones has been on this resurgence or not. Again, chances are he may be able to turn it back around. But, those thoughts of reverting back to his old ways are always going to creep in amongst other fans. That's something you have to watch, of course. Why is Daniel Jones throwing 50 passes in any game? Do you really think he's that kind of quarterback that can manage to drop back 50 times? Even if the line had done a great job protecting him all season, and even if they had kept turnovers to a minimum across the entire season, there ain't no way in hell you're letting Daniel Jones drop back 50 fucking times. And potentially even more than that, accounting for different sacks and everything. But hey, you want to talk about some good defensive cap? Shit, bro. The Steelers can say they had themselves an outing that was worth their label as the most expensive defense in the NFL. Even if you don't know how consistent this is going to be for the rest of the season. Peyton Wilson, all-around game with 14 tackles, interception, and 2 pass deflections. Joey Porter Jr. with 8 tackles, an interception, and 4 pass deflections. Brandon Echols with a pass deflection and 6 tackles. Jalen Ramsey doing his thing. Alex Highsmith getting back there for 2 sacks, 4 tackles, and also 3 TFLs. Kyle Duggar in his debut getting some action in. You had TJ Watt force a fumble and recover a fumble. You had Brandon Echols recover a fumble. You had Derek Harmon recover a fumble. You had Jack Sawyer get his first NFL interception and a pass deflection in this game as well. And Cameron Hayward also had multiple pass deflections. Just up and down, a great game from that unit. If only they could, at least you're not always going to force a team to turn the ball over 6 times. But at the very least, if you're going to play that sound defense consistently, man, you're not going to have that many problems as a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. But you definitely would like to see the offense step up way more than they did in that game. And they still got away with it because they pummeled the Colts into submission. Moving on to the Chargers and the Titans. I mean, the Titans actually held a lead. Somehow, they managed to get a pick six from Cody Barton in this game, and also got a great punt return from 67 yards out by Chimere Dike. But that was essentially all she wrote. I don't know why it took the Chargers that much effort to have to come back in this game. But they ended up doing just that. And, they'd win 27-20. For the numbers, Justin Herbert had 65.5% completion for 250 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception, while also leading the way on the ground with 57 rushing yards and a touchdown. Rondé Gas in the second half, 5 receptions for 68 yards, and Lamar Jackson had 4 receptions for 56 yards. Quentin Johnson also had 4 receptions for 53 yards and a score. For whatever reason, this Matlock converted Dean Lineman fullback head-ass motherfucker managed to get in for a score. I don't know how. I don't know when it happened. This game wasn't live, but do with that information what you will. It continues to be rough sailing for Cam Ward and this team overall. 57.1% completion and just 145 yards. And he did manage to have 2 fumbles in this game as well. Luckily for him, he didn't lose any. Man, the whole Titans team just kind of has to be purged at this point, right? I mean, what other solution is there for this kind of, I don't know. I don't know what to say, man. It's awful. Speaking of different shit, man, this Jags-Raiders game started out tremendously slow and slowly heated up over time. Again, not watching everything live, but they did have a score alert that would change a lot. Because I mentioned that Brandon Aubrey himself in the Monday Night Football game tried to kick a 68-yarder. I forgot to mention that somebody already did that shit earlier in the day and set an NFL record for the longest field goal in its history. And that would be none other than Cam Little, essentially, with the clock winding down at halftime at the fucking buzzer, booting that shit the lowest trajectory imaginable. And it was good to the point where it went clean through the back of the net. He didn't have to worry about the shit touching the upright. He didn't have to worry about the shit hitting the crossbar. That shit went clean through, right through, like Sean Payton fucking said in the Broncos game. That shit would have been good from longer. The way, the angle in which it was kicked at, it would have been good from way more than that. And that's a scary fucking thing to think about. But he did it. You have to give him his respect. I mean, hey, they tried to test his fucking gangster in the fucking postseason. They said that 70-yard shit was a fluke, that he could not do it again in the regular season. And he fucked around and he did that shit in the regular season to the point where it ended up being the difference in this game, and the NFL drug tested his ass right after, because even they couldn't believe the shit. But no, that's just called fucking leg power. From a guy who is consistently labeled as a wiry frame at the kicker position. That shit didn't matter to him. Like, it was still slow throughout. Like, I shit you not. Raiders opened the second half with Geno Smith. Yeah. I don't know how to explain it, man. It's like, bro, like, How is Geno Smith leading the league in picks or tied for the lead in picks, bro? This shit is crazy. That's not good. But he still managed to thug it out, especially in this fourth quarter. I mean, both teams just went at each other the whole damn time. You had Trevor Lawrence get a touchdown. That would be followed up with Ashton Genty getting out of the backfield for a receiving touchdown of his own. And from there, you would have the Jaguars respond with Trevor Lawrence carving up the defense somehow. And eventually progressing to a point whereby Joel Tootin could get in the end zone to get the ball game tied up. But not before Brock Bowers, essentially for the rest of this game, would just continue to go crazy. Even with the response of a field goal from Jacksonville. They had no answer for Brock Bowers. They had no answer. He got his second touchdown catch before that point from 27 yards out. And then we got into overtime, despite this being a 6-3 ball game at the half. And Trevor Lawrence would once again take it upon himself to run in the end zone for a score, while Brock Bowers himself on the ensuing drive, with a little bit of bonus coverage, because granted that the game was that competitive, they were driving down. They were getting closer, but there was a penalty that pushed them in goal-to-go territory from a much more favorable standpoint. Brock Bowers would creep open yet again for a hat trick in his return and his first 3 touchdowns on the year to give the Raiders a fighting chance to either settle for the tie or win the ball game. But people don't want to see a tie in the NFL. They want to see victors and losers. It's not good for the sport of football for the game to end in tie. I guess hearing all that shit, the Raiders decided, okay, for the sake of it, we may as well just go for it. Fuck it. End it right here. Most anticlimactic bat down I've ever seen in my life. It didn't even come close. And the Raiders would drop yet another game as the Jags would win 30-29. Trevor Lawrence had 220 yards and an interception on 67.6% completion with 2 rushing touchdowns on the ground. Travis Etienne Jr. led the way with 22 rushes for 84 yards. And Parker Washington had 8 receptions for 90 yards in this game, while Brian Thomas Jr. had 3 receptions for 55 yards. As for the Raiders, 284 yards and 74.4% completion for Geno Smith in this game. 4 touchdowns and an interception. Probably the best performance he's had in this season, and it's still just come in a losing effort. It's highly unfortunate. Ashton Genty had 18 total touches for 89 yards and a receiving touchdown. And Brock Bowers, again, 12 receptions for 127 yards and 3 scores, along with a run for 6 yards because, the disrespect for Tyler Lockett is crazy. Like, the man only had a target in this game. He didn't finish with anything. Like, this is stuff, like, there's still crowded here. Oh, but wait. Man, perfect way to tie this game together in a later development to come. And then the Rams and the Saints. Tyler Shuck's debut as a starter, and the Rams' contributions in this game against this damned Saints team is about what you would have expected it to be. They literally 34-10. Like, is there anything for me to say about this? We knew this was going to happen. We knew. I think, right? I don't know. I must be crazy or something. Because, like, you know, Oh, man. Oh, my goodness. Boy. You know it's bad when Taysom Hill steps into the game, didn't complete a single pass, had 4 rushes for 30 yards in this game with a long of 29 yards on a play. And that ended up being the highest rushing total for a player on this team. That was the longest play from scrimmage for any player on the team. Yeah. And Rashid Shaheed for the Saints would lead the way with 5 receptions for 68 yards. But again, as a developmental show in just a second, they were lying about potential availability and the, refusal to put both of their top guys on the trade market. Yeah. As for the Rams, Matthew Stafford, bro, he's on it. The fact that this man has 21 touchdowns and 2 interceptions right now, I mean, as much as we're throwing other names in the race for MVP, I'm sure he's got to be up there at this point. Because that is efficiency like a motherfucker. You can't make that up. Okay, the shit is impressive. And he's doing that at his age. And again, obviously, with Kershaw being a teammate of his and now being retired. Coming out around the same point. To still have him doing that kind of shit on a week-to-week basis. I mean, it's been a weird career for Matthew Stafford, to say the least. But, those are the kinds of things you have to appreciate before he bows out. Kyron Williams had 25 rushes for 114 yards and a touchdown, while Blake Corum had 13 rushes for 58. And Pukanaka in this game had 7 receptions for 95 yards and a touchdown, while Devontae Adams had 5 receptions for 60 yards and 2 scores. Again, Justin Reed is still as dangerous of a safety as he's been. Demario Davis is still a consistent tackler, but again, it's not gonna bail them out of anything anytime soon. Man, oh boy.